So we're live. We're in the building. So, had to bring a guest on for this. Fury versus Usyk. Looks like, I think we all kind of knew it wasn't going to happen on April 29th. But potentially looks like this fight could be dead in the water. Certainly for the foreseeable future. There's talk of Usyk fighting Daniel Dubois. There's talk of him fighting Filip Hrgovic. And Wasmut have been saying they've been contacted. And I needed a guest to have a talk about this, get his 2 cents on it, because I think I've been waiting to hear his thoughts on it. It's my mate Dell, Blue Collar Sports TV. How are you, mate?
Yes, I am very good, apart from the terrible news we've had in boxing this week with Fury and Usyk, as well as Inoue versus Fulton being postponed. It's been a bit of a shit week, really, but...
I forgot about that, yeah. Inoue, for someone who hits as hard as he does, hand injuries are part and parcel. But of all the times to get one.
Yeah.
It's not been fun, put it like that. But Fury Usyk it was a fight that I really want to see. More so for what's on the line with Undisputed. And it seems now it's on the back burner, certainly for the time being. Mate, I know you haven't had a chance to really make a video, give your 2 cents on it, but what are your thoughts on the whole situation, really? Because it's been an absolute calamity. What's your thoughts?
Well, ultimately, I mean, let's judge both fighters and what they've said, what they've done in their careers.
Just
Oleksandr.
You can only really judge someone based upon their actions, yes, which is what correct. I think we're doing.
Correct, yeah. Just purely pattern recognition between these guys. Oleksandr Usyk turned pro in 2013.
Mm-hmm.
He said then, "My ambitions are to become undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world and then undisputed heavyweight champion of the world." Ever since then, he has followed through with his initial claims when turning pro. Winning undisputed, winning every single title away from home. Name me another guy who's done that. A Ukrainian going into Moscow to beat Murat Gassiev. He went to Latvia to defeat Meris Briedis in a really hard fight. He then defended his titles that he worked so hard for in the UK against Tony Bellew. Moves to heavyweight, fights Chisora in the UK, fights Anthony Joshua in the UK, a guy who's got 20, 30 pounds on him, 2 inches in height, multiple inches in reach. He's done it the hard way since the start. And from everything I've heard in regards to Usyk, his team, they're not all that hard to deal with, from what I've heard. Whereas you compare that with Tyson Fury, I mean, he's a man who's been very economical with the truth. You could argue he's been to blame in regards to certain fights falling through. You can go way back when, to David Price.
Yeah.
I mean, it appeared that only one man was holding that up. I know David Price, in retrospect, isn't really shit, but at the time, it was Tyson Fury who was holding that fight up. Then Ustinov, of course, the Vladimir Klitschko rematch, the nonsense with the Wilder arbitration. I mean, Tyson Fury's got a track record of
he literally announced, just on the Wilder, he literally announced a day or so before the Wilder arbitration hearing that the AJ fight was set for August. And then literally a day or so later, boom, he's got to fight Wilder again.
Correct, yeah. He's constantly lied to boxing fans throughout his whole career. Yes, he's done some very good things. He's got some good wins. Vladimir Klitschko, away from home, brilliant win. Deontay Wilder, brilliant win. Nobody's disputing that. But ultimately, I'm just tired of having to guess, is this fight going to happen? Is that fight going to happen with Tyson Fury? At the end of the day, I'm a consumer. I buy these fights when I feel they are worth it. And yeah, as a fan, Tyson Fury, I've had enough of Tyson Fury. I really have. I've had enough.
I just don't understand how anyone could look at this and the way it's been handled and the contingencies that Usyk and his team have had to make. I mean, they wanted the Saudi deal. Fury said, no, it's going to happen in the UK. They said, okay, fine, fair enough. Are we going to get 60-40? No, you're not going to get 60-40. Okay, well, how about 60-40 to the winner? No, that's still not good enough. You're going to get 70-30, which realistically, I mean, that is... I've no issue with Fury getting the bigger purse because I think he is the bigger name, certainly in the UK. But to offer Usyk that little, 70-30, and for him to still accept that, and then the goalpost be moved again. He's behaving like a politician, not a boxer.
Indeed, I agree. I think the 70-30 was maybe a bit of a. I think Usyk called Fury's bluff ultimately. I
Yeah.
think he was expecting Usyk to say, no, fuck you, I'll take 60-40, but 70-30 is not acceptable. I think Usyk, this is a problem when you play negotiations in the public. You can look real stupid real quick. And I think that's what's happened with Tyson Fury. Throughout following Tyson Fury, particularly since he's made it big, he's got a lot of protection on social media from fans. However, this situation's a lot different. I see so many more fans on social media actually criticizing Tyson Fury for once, holding him accountable. They've seen Usyk agree to everything that's been made public, whether it be 70-30 or, he agreed the Saudi Arabia deal. He seems to be far more willing to agree and compromise more so than Tyson Fury. That's how it appears to me.
Carl Froch, right, made a video on his YouTube channel, and he talked about when he fought Kessler in the rematch. And Carl Froch wanted that rematch. He really did. And at the time, he was a bigger name. Kessler was kind of on his way out. And he still agreed to give Kessler 50-50 straight off the bat because he knew he wanted to fight as did Kessler. So that was done like that.
Yep.
When you really want to fight and you really wanted your leg, you want to get the legacy, Carl Froch wanted to win back, you'll make it.
Or look at Muhammad Ali, Joe Fraser. 50-50, $2.5 million each. Fraser was a big name, but Ali was a global sensation. Everybody in the world knew who that guy was. And yet he wanted that fight. He wanted that title. He agreed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
Ryan and Tank.
Ryan and Tank, look at that. Exactly. David Hay said it. When two fighters want to fight, it will happen regardless of everything else around it.
Mm-hmm.
I see this as... more so on Tyson Fury's side than Usyk's. I've got no reason to disbelieve Usyk.
No, right. And the thing is as well, it's like Team Usyk have pointed out that stuff like the rematch, like Fury saying he doesn't want a rematch when he was the one originally who apparently insisted on the rematch being in it. So it's like he's insisting this should be there, and then Usyk said, okay, fine, it's there. I agree to 70-30. Oh, now let's take the rematch out. But you insisted on it. Oh, no, let's just take that out as well. I mean, God only knows if the fight does happen, he might pull a Klitschko trick, where spongy canvas, the gloves you don't want to wear, and the judges will be from God knows where.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It's hard to really make sense of what is going on, to be honest. Another thing that is apparent in this whole saga with Frank Warren on TalkSport, I don't think the pertinent questions were asked in regards to the hold-ups on this fight.
Simon Jordan, I watched it as well. He seemed more keen on asking Eddie Hearn the tough questions, really pushing Eddie Hearn. It became kind of a bit of a two kids going at it with all the interruptions. But he seemed more willing to go and ask Eddie Hearn and try and go in on Eddie Hearn than he did Warren on TalkSport today.
Yeah, I think that's just personal from Simon Jordan. He's got a gripe with Eddie Hearn, and I don't blame him, but you got to play it down the middle, right? You have to play it down the middle. I mean, he's supposed to be this guy who has the courage of his convictions, as he likes to say, yet he acts like a pussycat around Frank.
As do a lot of people. As do a lot of these so-called, the best in the business. The Garrity, A-Hole Davis.
Shout out to Umar.
Shout out to IFL Umar. He's doing well sexually. That's who you need to get the interviews going. Tyen Boot interviewing Tyson Fury. I'd love to know how that would go.
Probably get more sense out of him, honestly.
It probably would, actually. And the thing I find amazing though about Fury is that, like, the one time we've ever seen him really ask difficult questions, certainly in the last while, has been by True Geordie, who really doesn't have anything to do in boxing. He's a podcaster, YouTuber who talks more about football and things like that than anything else. And he's the only one who was willing to ask Fury the hard questions going into the Chisora fight. And Fury threw his toys out of the pram.
Yeah, and that whole situation was very interesting. You saw a guy in True Geordie who I don't like, but he doesn't rely on boxing. He doesn't have to appease anybody. That's why he asked for questions. But boxing media, they have to toe a certain line to get a certain gig, to get certain accreditations. That's just how it is.
It is crap the way it is that way. Like that, there's the promoters and fighters like that have that kind of power, where it's like, even in the media to an extent. Like, as I've seen here in Ireland, there are very few of them, but there are a few who will ask politicians difficult questions. But they're still allowed in to all press conferences and stuff like that. So it seems like even in like real politics, people who ask tough questions still they might not get all the answers. They might not always be the first to say question for you, but they're still allowed in. But in boxing, it's like you ask one tough question to one promoter or a fighter, and boom, you won't be at that fighter show anytime soon, and you're losing money off that.
Correct, yeah. And I think that's really because the big journalists, whether it be guys who work for newspapers like Gareth A. Davis or big interview channels like IFL, Kugan Cassius, it's up to those guys to set the standards, to actually to set the standards and ask difficult questions because they can't ban everybody. If all of
No,
these big channels started to ask the questions in which we actually wanted to answers for, then maybe things would change. But guys like Coogan, Michelle Joy Phelps, they know where their bread is buttered. At the end of the day, they're not going to ask these hard questions, and that just it creates this culture of softball nonsense. I'm not interested in hearing what Eddie Hearn's favorite packet of crisps are. Not interested. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, I know. It's like you watch an interview, and there could be something massive going on, and you spend more time listening to you want to call I wouldn't call it banter, but guys trying to have banter between two mates and then kind of slipping all. Oh, what about this? This is what's happening. Oh, brilliant. Next question.
Yeah, that's all it is now. That's all it is. Yeah, I think the whole YouTube, the whole interviewing scene, it's a pretty low bar when it comes to sports journalism. I mean, when it comes to sporting communities on YouTube, I think the boxing community probably is the worst.
Would you really
I
say
don't
that?
really. Yeah, seriously, I really would. I mean, as boxing fans, we're going to have disagreements, but
Yeah, of
we can't
course.
even get on the right side of a. We can't even agree that we want the best fights possible because you see, certain people will push certain narratives for certain networks or certain promoters. We can't even agree as fight fans that we want the best fights. I see fight fans explain why big fights can't happen. Oh, this guy is on another network. That fight can't happen. That guy doesn't sell enough pay-per-views. It can't happen. Doesn't make sense for business. Why the fuck do you care as a boxing fan? It makes
Hmm.
no sense to me. Makes zero sense.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I never understood that either, where it's like he's on this network, he's on this. Well, it's like, networks have worked together in the past. Isn't that a good thing? No. It's like, what? You want this fight to happen, don't you? And it's just, it baffles me. It really does. And I think this is another case of it where if we look at the Fury Usyk situation, I do think to an extent the fans can help, and I think them turning on Fury to an extent may help it. I mean, I remember you saying that you felt that Joshua Usyk helped come about because people like me and you were calling for that fight.
Yeah, because if you remember, there was actually talk of Joshua vacating that title
Mm,
before
right.
that fight happened. I'm not sure how close it was, but there was talk of it. And a lot of people voiced their displeasure on social media. Maybe it had something to do with it. I don't know. But we should pressure these guys more. As fight fans, especially as like content creators, why not? Because they do listen to some degree. They know what's being said.
Oh, they definitely do. I think being at some events, it kind of strikes me how some of them actually, who you wouldn't think would actually listen to some of your videos. I've had people like in BT Sport, like who work for them, be like, "Oh, I've seen some of your videos." I'm like, "Oh, what? You have? All right." So there's people up there who do watch these videos and they do hear it. So for me, it's like we have to try and like get the voice out, and I think we need to hold the people who are causing fights like this not to happen accountable for it. I think the
Correct.
fans need to as well, because the thing about Fury is he has that small selection of group of fans who, if he came out tomorrow and he said, "I'll fight Usyk April 29th, but Usyk has to take 5%. No ifs or buts. That's the end of it. 5% purse, take it or leave it." There will be fans out there who will give him a pass and say, "Yeah, Usyk should take that." So how is Fury ever gonna? If his fans were just going to give him a pass over crap like that, I'm not saying he would do that, but you know what I mean. They would still give him a pass hypothetically. How is he? How are we ever going to get this guy to get his finger out and actually make the fights? If he's just going to get a
That's
pass no matter what he does.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. I'm convinced when it comes to you can be a fan of a fighter. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But when it becomes fanboy territory, I think it's more with those sort of guys. They don't want to see their guys lose, and they know what's a risky fight, and they're content with these fights not happening because they don't want their guy to lose. It's as simple as that. That's how I see it.
They protect that O with everything, as if you lose that O, you're garbage, which is completely wrong.
Exactly. I mean, does it really affect Fury's legacy? Let's say he fights Usyk, there's a rematch clause. Let's say he loses the first fight, then comes back in the second and wins in resounding fashion. Doesn't hurt Fury.
Doesn't hurt Fury at all. And even if he loses, I mean, you're talking about an all-time great heavyweight in Oleksandr Usyk. ATG, undisputed cruiserweight champion, possibly undisputed heavyweight champion. There's no shame in losing to that. And I'll just read out the super chat there. I'm absolutely loving the Fury slander on my timeline. Fury had clearly ducked the fight. I'm delighted the fans are starting to see the real Fury, the greedy, calculating man that he is. I mean, there you go. There you go.
I agree.
And thank you for the super chat. But, you can't lie. You can't. What he said there is absolutely true. Fury is a businessman before he's a boxing man. People say, well, he went to Germany and he fought Klitschko. Everyone had to. You couldn't get a title shot unless you went to Germany to fight Klitschko. He fought Deontay Wilder in America. He was coming off the back of a 2.5-year layoff. He had 2 gimme fights. His reputation was still down there. Of course he had to go to America. Deontay Wilder would have laughed if he'd said, come to England on the A side. He would have laughed.
Exactly. No, I agree. He did what he had to do, and credit to him. He got the wins. Great.
Yeah.
It proves he can. It proves he can do it. And to me, that's the most frustrating thing about Tyson Fury. As much as I don't like his character, I see a fighter in Tyson Fury who has generational talents at heavyweight. And I don't say that lightly. I think the guy is tremendously talented. Bear in mind, this second time around, he's damaged his body. He's not the fighter he once was, but he's still getting results. He's still doing his thing. If he had that kind of if he had a different mentality, anyone, anywhere, anytime, the conversations we would be having about Tyson Fury, man, who knows? Who knows?
He's like Klitschko in a way, where it's slightly different, but Klitschko was a fighter who had so much talent, but he had to fight dirty. And it pissed you off when you saw that. Fury has so much talent, and he still picks and chooses his fights so carefully. He has the talent to beat anyone in the division. I think he beats a Joshua. I think he beats a Joyce, right? Just personally, in my opinion. But I'd like to still see those fights. But with Fury, it's a case of, I'll weigh up risk reward. I could fight this guy for this amount of money. It's a bit of a risk. Or I could fight this guy, same amount of money, much less risk. I'll take the less risk.
Yeah.
But I'll try and spin a narrative that, I'm taking a bigger risk fighting this guy.
Don't be surprised if we hear Manuel Char's name get mentioned.
Manuel Char, I mean, he is sticking around like the plague. He really is. He was meant to fight Miller. Yeah. He was meant to fight Miller, wasn't he, over the weekend?
He was, yeah. He was. No. He was supposed to fight Lucas Brown, and he withdrew for some reason. And then Miller fought Lucas Brown.
Which was still a fun fight. I mean, big up the big farmer. I'll give him that. He did what he needed to do. It was a fun fight.
Yeah, man. Give me Tyson Fury versus Big Pharma. Why not?
Oh, yeah. That would actually, I'm just thinking, that would be a pretty entertaining fight, though. Imagine Miller fighting Fury, the banter, the back and forth going into it, and then you Fury, 6'9", boxing around this big 330-pound brick wall.
Yeah.
That would actually make for some compelling viewing.
It wouldn't shock me, mate. Nothing would shock me in boxing these days. Nothing would shock me.
No, boxing is one of them sports where it's like the thing you think about the least could happen will happen. It just seems to be that way. I mean, we're still hearing talk about Conor Benn, Chris Eubank Jr., for God's sake.
Well, the less said about that, the better.
I won't go in. I'm not gonna set you off on a rant, man. I'm not gonna set you up. I'm not gonna do that to you, man. We were talking about Fury thing. We'll keep it at that for the time being anyway. But look, we spent nearly 20 minutes on this subject. In closing, mate, do you honestly, hand on your heart, believe that we will at some point this year see Fury Usyk? I had a thought about this going to work this morning, right? Would Oleksandr Usyk fight a Filip Hrgovic? Now, I'd pick him over Hrgovic, but do his damnedest to look as bad as he can in winning, just to spur Fury into that fight. Because a lot of people feel like Triple G, when he fought Danny Jacobs in 2017, he deliberately held back and let Jacobs into the fight more because he knew, I look bad in this fight, but I win, I get Canelo.
I mean, nothing. Again, it wouldn't shock me. I think Usyk probably is that confident in his skill set that he could do that, but I don't think he would personally. It's too risky, I would say, because you never know.
You
Yeah,
just
you
don't
never know.
Someone like Dubois, maybe you could take that risk.
Oh yeah, probably.
You could take that risk against him. Hey, Gman, hope you're well. I miss the days of Mike Tyson, who fought nearly everyone in the division. So will we get Dubois versus Fury now? LOL. I actually rather see Dubois versus Miller of all people. I'd love to see that fight. The Miller who fought Brown on Sunday or Saturday, I don't think beats Dubois, but a fitter Miller, man, he's going to give that kid hell.
I would watch it. I'd be all there for it. Miller versus Dubois. I think that version of Miller beats Dubois. I don't think Dubois can hurt Miller, and he can't keep that pace. He'll fold.
No.
I think he'll fold. I really do.
He put it like this: he couldn't handle what Kevin Lorena was throwing at him. You imagine what Big Farmer Miller, I should say, was throwing him.
Exactly, some Pfizer power punches.
I come with the power of Colombia. I've got all of Colombia, Bolivia on my side and in my arm.
Yeah, I know, man. It's crazy. I'd watch it, though. I'd watch it.
I'd watch it as well.
In regards to Fury Usyk happening this year, I'd love to be wrong, but I'm just going to say no. If I had a gun to my head, I'd probably be safer saying no, honestly.
It does look that way. The only thing is, though, it is early in the... Oh, shit. I had that thing there. It is still early in the year. So perhaps later on this year, if all goes well, hope I didn't mess that up there, we may, you never know. Things can change. But
yeah, the only issue, though, the two Mandos for Usyk, Dubois and Hrgović.
Well, as far as I'm aware, Dubois still has an injury. So should that not still be put in the back burner? Because it was ligaments. That takes a long time to heal from, apparently.
I guess it depends if you believe whether he was injured. I'm not convinced he was. I think that was a smokescreen, to be honest, to protect him. But that's my opinion. But I might be wrong on that.
Well, the two Mandos, I mean, depending on how tough they are, God knows how much time is going to have to elapse between the two. But I would pick him over Hrgović. I'd definitely pick him over Dubois. I mean, that goes without saying. And then you've got Joyce on top of that.
Exactly, yeah. Indeed. So it feels like it has to happen now. Next,
it feels like it's the only time.
Yeah,
it feels like it's the only time. Otherwise, it won't be for undisputed. If it happens later on in the year, one of those belts is going to get vacated because one of the sanction bodies is going to say, "F this, see you later."
Especially the IBF because they don't mess around.
Them.
Yeah,
they strip Canelo.
They
strip Canelo and they take Canelo sanction fees, they'll take anyone.
Oh, of course, yeah. IBF one, I don't always like their rankings, but they are pretty fair when it comes to that. Regardless of who you are, if you're not fighting your Mando, you're going to get stripped.
Which is the way it should be.
That's a good thing. Yeah, that's
the way it should be. That's the whole point of. Now they have been a bit lax on Mandos, to be fair, at welterweight. 5 years since Errol Spencer's done one, but for the most part, they are consistent. If anything, you could say they're a bit too strict at times. Do you remember when they stripped Joe Cordina for a legit injury? And he'd only held the title for a couple of weeks. He had a legit injury and they stripped him for it, which to me was that's the whole point of an interim title.
I agree, yeah. I totally agree. But at least he's fighting for it again coming up against
Rakhimov. He should win that fight. Rakhimov didn't impress me at all against Zelfa Barrett. He looked terrible.
I agree. I think I've seen Rakhimov quite a lot and he looked as bad as I've seen him. I think he was on the sauce a few fights back, personally.
Wouldn't surprise me. You know what's funny though? Like you really do see it in fighters. I'm not saying he's popped or he is making any accusations about Rakhimov, but when a fighter has been on something and then they have to come off it, whether they want to or not, you see some serious deterioration. It's like they've been in a war without even being in a war.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's how he looked in that fight. He was so slow to get going against Zelfa. So slow to get going. He got there eventually, but I wasn't impressed. Joe should win, I would say.
He should win. In terms of actually, like, I was just thinking about there, like, people who have come off the old "how you doing" and fought clean. They've never looked right straight away, haven't they not? Erkentepe, terrible straight away. I think he lost straight after coming clean. Lucas Brown, Briggs never fought. It's been a good few examples, hasn't it, where they've come clean and then boom, career's just gone.
Yeah, Miller looks decent still, but not to the level he once was.
No. To be fair
doesn't have
though,
the intensity.
he was more active back then. To be fair, you could probably say like the activity was helping. He was constantly in camp, I suppose, saying that he was juiced up to the eyeball.
Yeah, exactly. Canelo still looks good.
He does. He does still look good. To be fair, Canelo looked even better after he came off it. Funny enough, because people were saying if he was juicing for the first Canelo or the first Triple G fight, he looked better in the second one.
Yeah, indeed.
It's the joy. It's the joy of boxing. It's the joy of Tiggs. And you know what? I'm just going to throw this before we move on. There is no way there was any testing going on that card in Dubai on Saturday night. No way.
Oh, God, no.
No way. And no way that made a penny in profit.
No. You know my theory on those sort of cards, in like those random ass cards in Dubai that make no sense whatsoever.
That make no sense. But they get coverage.
I think they're money laundering exercises, to be honest. Because how's that card going to make money? Lucas Brown versus Jarrell Miller, with nobody in the arena.
It literally, like that arena looked about as sad as I've seen an arena.
They had Floyd commentating as well.
Yeah, in an arena with literally nobody. Like the Copper Box Arena is probably smaller than that arena, and York Hall probably has more fans on a Saturday night for some random card. Yep. It's crazy.
Indeed.
It's crazy. But we have to talk about some of the fights we have upcoming that are happening. Before we move on from this whole Fury debacle, let's talk about some of the good fights we have up and coming and the fights we have coming up this weekend. Obviously, in the UK, we've got 2 cards on. I hate it when 2 cards clash, to be fair. We've got the Nathan Heaney, Jack Flatley rematch. We've also got David Light versus Lawrence Okoli. The preview both cards. Which one are you most looking forward to? And I don't mean just the main event. I mean in terms of the entire card.
I'd say the Lawrence Okoli card. I am kind of interested to see where Lawrence Okoli's at right now, considering what's going on in his career. Mm-hmm. He's not with Shane anymore, is he?
No, he's with. And again, people saying, well, Sugar Hill's training with Tyson Fury, so he's clearly ready for a fight. No, Sugar Hill trains Lawrence Okoli, who's fighting this week.
Yeah, I thought that was the case. I'm interested in that because you look at Lawrence Okoli, tall gangly guy, 6'5" at cruiser. He has
made for it.
Yeah, perfect cronk fighter. If Sugar Hill can get Lawrence to stop falling in with his punches, to stop clinching, maintain range behind that jab, you might see. I think that's always going to be in Lawrence's game. But if he can keep it on the outside more behind that jab, he's going to be an even more tough assignment at cruiserweight. I think that's a perfect match for him.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm actually looking forward to seeing if we see anything new from him or any improvements in his game, particularly his distance control.
I think that's. I can't wait to see how the straight right's going to look. It's always look good, but you know the Kronk style, they love getting the max snap out of that straight right. I think that's going to look fantastic on this fight. David Light's nothing to write home about either.
Oh, I watched his last fight against Brandon Glanton. Yeah, I felt he got a gift in that fight. He was lucky.
Awful. Absolutely horrendous. So I can't imagine this fight's going to be a knockover job. Okoli is still being very vocal about Eddie Hearn, and I know Eddie Hearn has gone back and said that, I think he said with Coogan, a little snippet of an interview, that Lawrence Okoli does an interview, doesn't mention Hearn, gets 2,000 views, mentions Eddie Hearn saying go F yourself, gets 50,000 views. Do you think at this point now Lawrence Okoli is just doing it just to get a bit more publicity on himself?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, yeah. And why wouldn't he, I guess, right? I think that's really what it's about. You know, Lawrence, it looks like Lawrence is going to go with Sky now. He's got what he wanted. Why not take a few shots? You know, people love that, so why not?
What's your thoughts on what it's about? What's your thoughts on the whole situation? Like, that's Okoli now is left, Buatsi is now left Eddie Hearn. And interesting, they were both 258 fighters. Do you think the issue, and I know Buatsi said it was like he didn't like fighting on the zone, fair enough, but do you think there's a bigger issue there than just the zone and Eddie Hearn? Because it's not enough that, like, but like this, 258 fighters, like, his name escapes me. The guy, he was in the Olympics.
Fraser Clark,
No, the other. Well, yeah, him, but the other guy,
Ben
the light
Whitaker.
heavyweight, Ben Whitaker. Thank you. They are still 258, but they didn't go with Eddie Hearn. Do you think there's something going on there with like 258 Eddie Hearn? Like maybe they're clashing on certain things, and some of the fighters are saying, "F this, we're getting out of both ships." They're sinking.
I have wondered that, but maybe it is actually 258 doing what is best for their clients. I mean, if I was a young fighter like a Ben Whitaker, I would go on Sky initially, at least, to build my profile. They have the biggest audience when it comes to boxing. I think it just makes sense in terms of like viewership and getting your name out there. I would say
If I was UK based, I'd go with either Sky to start out with either Sky or BT because I'd want to be on as many shows as possible.
exactly, yeah, and they can do that. They've kept Fraser Clark relatively active. He's usually on cards. Yeah, to me, it would just make sense to go. I think I have wondered that, but I think it's more so just more convenient for young fighters to go to Sky, turning pro. Because who's talking about Galal Yafai, who won a gold? Who's talking about him?
Very few. Well, he's not looked the best anyway, so
Yeah,
not many people. He's not exactly setting the world alight. To be fair, even if he was on Sky, I don't think he'd be setting the world alight. I think it's the marketing pull of Sky. Because do you remember how much like you had Eddie Hearn promoting Okoli and you had him promoting Boazzi on Matchroom when they were on Sky, but Sky really did their bit as well on their end of marketing both fighters. Like I remember Lawrence Okoli when he turned over pro, it was cringe what Sky had him doing. It was absolutely cringe. You could tell that wasn't Eddie Hearn's idea. I think even Eddie Hearn wouldn't be that stupid to make Lawrence Okoli say some of the things, the post-fight interviews he was saying. And that was just Sky trying to market them. And I reckon the fighters like that. Maybe don't like Lawrence Okoli putting potatoes on his t-shirt, on his shorts, just to say, "Oh, I'm so random," which I just thought was just cringe. It was so stupid, and it just made him look like a gobshite. But maybe he didn't like saying that, but maybe he liked the fact that they were trying so hard to market him on top of the promoter.
Yeah, exactly, because it doesn't just end with the promoter, with Sky. You have Sky Sports News, of course. Like
exactly,
they preview fights and they do advertising for fights, etc. When there's football on, they'll advertise fights in between, like the in between the breaks, that sort of thing. There's just a much bigger reach on Sky, and they can get the message across far easier than someone like DAZN, for example, who, in regards to advertising, in regards to advertising, I mean, I've only really seen DAZN on YouTube, like YouTube ads.
They have it in buses now, not physically on the bus, but I see it on kind of buses driving by, and if the shopping centre where I live does have DAZN adverts going on, the TVs around it. So they're getting out there a little bit, but now they actually have a Sky station, which is interesting.
That is very interesting. Yeah, but again, that is probably good for them in regards to like massive fights, mega fights. It won't really make a difference in regards to their usual cards, but if they have like a big pay-per-view with Joshua, let's say Joshua Wilder, that would be good for DAZN to get on.
Brilliant.
Yeah, to get on Sky. Yeah,
they'd have it on every like bar. That's been their big problem, is accessibility.
Yeah, indeed, and they're doing better than they were. But again, even with this new link up with Sky, having access to Sky's like customer base, that's all well and good. But let's be honest, you're out there in Ireland. I'm here in England. Without football, DAZN have a certain ceiling. It is just that simple. Just that simple.
And there's other sports as well that I think they like realistically, like it baffles me that they haven't taken them on. Like Eddie Hearn is the chairman of PDC, which is the Professional Darts Corporation. Darts is one of the biggest sports in the UK. It's on Sky. Like that should be one of the sports Eddie Hearn is pushing to get on DAZN ASAP.
Yeah. And when I went on DAZN, because I've unsubbed from DAZN, but last time I went on it, I saw fucking gaming tournaments, like esports. It's like, bro, seriously. Why can't you get some like championship games or, I don't know, fucking cricket or rugby or some bullshit like that to broaden your customer base? But there's just not the variety of content there right now from a UK perspective. It's not there as of right now. And they need that. Like boxing's only got so much traction, right? They need other sports.
But who doesn't want to see a good game in tournament? Because those gamers could turn into YouTubers who could then have car crash careers, and you could be talking about them on your true crime channel.
True that. True that. True that.
There you go. There you go. Because it seems like the majority of them end up crashing and burning for some reason. In terms of the card that Queensbury are showing, there's really only one thing I'm interested in, which is Moses Atuma, who's fighting on the undercard of the card over in Telford.
Yeah.
Hard to gauge if he's actually going to do what he said he's going to do and break Tyson's record. That first fight was an absolute farce.
Yes.
That guy, you could just tell looking at him that he was going to go the minute one punch lands. You know, you could just look at an opponent and you're just like, he's going to just fall as soon as one punch lands. You could just instantly tell that. They're getting him out once a month. So he's out now this month and he's out in a couple of weeks on the Joyce undercard. I was looking forward to seeing how we get on until I interviewed him and I found out he only had 24 amateur fights. That's a bit of a worry.
Yeah. I mean, he's 18. It's super hard to say. I mean, from an athletic standpoint, he looks quick on his feet. Looks like he's got good hand speed. It's hard to gauge his power right now, but he's a southpaw as well. He does have some interesting attributes, but I think the whole "I'm going to beat Mike Tyson's record" is just a gimmick. I think it's marketing ploy. I don't think that's serious, because if you recall, they said the same thing about Huey Fury way back when.
I remember.
I think it's just pure marketing. That again, I don't see the obsession. I would build the guy slowly. He's 18 years old, like you said. 26 amateur fights? Just nurture him, build him slowly.
24.
Don't make Don't make the same mistakes you made with Daniel Dubois, for example, who, again, didn't have a crazy amateur background. And, you know, he was fed stiff after stiff after stiff after stiff, then Joe Joyce. And he was found wanting. He never got the development fights. And I think that took a lot out of Dubois, that Joyce fight. I still don't think he's over it. Can't make the same mistake again with Moses. Just give him time. You know, like you say, every month, get him out. First year, every month. 12 fights in a year. Try that. Why not? And then slowly progress. 6-rounders, 8-rounders, tough journeyman, southpaws, orthodox, etc. Tall guys, small guys. Just build the guy. Build the guy you know.
You learn from your mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Build the guy properly.
I'll read this first before carrying on. Thought this was disturbed reality. Part of me thought it was another person with the exact same voice. You cannot go anywhere, mate. They know the voice. Welcome back to Disturbed Reality.
I've been exposed.
You've been exposed, man. Even when you go on camera, you have the thing on. They still know that voice. You go out, mask on, they know that voice. There ain't no getting away from it. But you were talking about Dubois there, right? The one thing I'll say about Atuma, he strikes me as having more, how would I describe it? Being more switched on than Dubois. Like Dubois is just like from the start was like a deer in the headlights, and he never got it. He never grew out of that. He was just a deer in the headlights the whole time. Whereas I think with Atuma, he gets it, if you know what I mean. He gets this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do. So I don't think I think the pressure won't get to him like it did to Dubois.
I agree. Yeah, when I've heard Moses speak, he does come across a lot more mature, a lot more self-assured, confident but not arrogant. Whereas Dubois, like you say, when he first came on the scene, it was like childlike almost. Yeah, when you look at him talk, how you look at his mannerisms, it's almost kind of hard to watch at times. I've got my theories on Dubois. I know his dad was very kind of hard on him, wanted him to be a boxer, and he probably lacked socially because of that. He was always in the gym. It's almost like Peter Pan syndrome. You see a guy who's never really grown up. I think he probably missed out on certain social aspects of his youth, and we see that now in how he carries himself. And I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into that, but I kind of feel bad for Dubois, like sometimes. But
I always felt that. I know some people don't like him, but I always felt that when Ben Davison had characters like Josh Taylor, Lee Wood, stuff like that in his gym, and Dubois was looking for a new trainer, that Ben Davison actually, just to bring him out of his shell, because he'd be in a gym with characters, would maybe have been a good shout. Just for that atmosphere, that setting, where you have like a bit of banter, a load of characters. If they can't bring you out of your shell, then nothing's going to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He needs a good lad's holiday, Daniel Dubois. That's what he
Yeah, he
needs.
definitely does. If that you will be out of your shell with a good lads holiday, I'll tell you that now.
Take him to the strip club. Get a few drinks down him.
Could you imagine? This nice, yeah. Just staring into space. Him trying to chat up a girl. I'm boxer. Yeah. I fight. You're pretty. Let's go home. In terms of Heaney Flaherty, what are your thoughts on that fight? We got a rematch. Nathan
Yeah.
Heaney brings a fans and he brings an entrance, and that's roughly it.
Basically, yeah, he's like a middleweight Dave Allen almost, or he's a
With a bit
ticket
more
seller.
charisma.
Yeah, he's got more charisma. He's a ticket seller. He's a character, but he is that. He is just that. He's one of those stereotypical British boxing characters that that tend to get forced down our throats. He's not great. Jack Flatley's English level. First fight, Heaney won right by technical decision.
Yeah,
I
after
believe.
5 rounds. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably going to be fun for what it is, but neither guy is going to go any further than English level.
English level at best, I would say. You mentioned Dave Allen there. Did you see him say that he reckons he could beat Jarrell Miller after the Lucas Brown fight?
Do you know what? I know Miller's not everybody's favourite fighter, but I'm fully Team Miller in that fight.
I knew you'd be.
Yeah, he wouldn't beat Miller, honestly. He would get beat up. That'll be a dangerous fight as well because Allen's got a good chin. Miller throws a lot of punches. That'll be a dangerous fight, to be honest. I wouldn't want to see it personally.
I don't understand the comeback. I really don't. I mean, this is a guy who got knocked out on his feet by Oleksandr Usyk and said that was kind of the moment where he realised enough's enough, and now he's coming back. It's like, why? And the before and after pics of the weight gains just look ridiculous.
Yeah, it's like girls with their little angles. Dave Allen was sucking in his gut, right angle, right lighting. Yeah,
doing an Andy Ruiz.
Yeah, I'm not buying it, mate. I'm not buying it. I mean, what's going to happen with Dave? I always assumed that Dave would get fed to Alan Babbage, but looks like Babbage is fighting for the Bridgerweight title coming up. So,
Babbage is one of my favorite fighters, but God, he is not looking good lately.
Nope, he's fighting Lucas Rozansky next, Polish guy who I've seen a bit of Rozansky. He beat Spilka, knocked Spilka out in a round. He also knocked out Izuagono, if you remember him.
I remember him.
Yeah, so he's got better wins than Babbage. I think they're similar fighters, both very aggressive, but Rozansky picks his punches better. He's got better technique, whereas Babbage is just a swinger. I think Rozansky wins that fight.
Well, Babbage nearly got knocked out by, was he French? At the end 21, some French heavyweight who was a journeyman who caught Babbage in between punching and nearly had his head taken off. I mean, if that's happening to you there, that's just asking for trouble.
Yeah, but I think we know that though with Babbage. He is what he is, really. He's fun to watch, but yeah, knockout waiting to happen.
And it's on Sky as well, which is weird.
Yeah, it's a boxer card in Poland.
Is he with Dylan White still? Managed by him?
Do you know what? I've not heard anything from Babbage recently, so I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure he was at the Dylan White-Franklin fight. But you would imagine Dylan White would be trying to get him on his own card or something like that, or one of his cards or stuff. But we've heard literally nothing from him.
Yeah, strange. Who knows?
Dylan White has never struck me as having a good eye for talent when it comes to the fighters he takes on.
No, I think he kind of looks for guys like himself. I'm not trying to denigrate Dillian White. Dillian White's had a good career, but he looks for tough guys who come to trade, come to swing. I think those are the sort of guys that appeal to Dillian White, really. Guys who can take a bit of stick, That's how Babbage got the gig, right? He was sparring Dillian White, and that was it, really, I guess.
That was it. And Dylan White apparently back out in June.
Okay, I'd be interested to see who he fights.
Otto Verlaine, probably, I would imagine. I can't imagine who else they get. And what would you say to an Otto Verlaine fight with Dylan White now at this stage in Dylan White's career?
I think it makes perfect sense for both guys, to be honest. There's the history there with Wallin. That fight, yeah, they was meant to fight. White pulled out due to an injury, inverted commas.
And he was there the next day. Then they're there the fight night. Perfect.
Yeah, White's not looking that great It didn't look great against Franklin, but neither's Otto Wallin though. His last couple of fights, he's not looked great. Both guys need to step up. They need a win of consequence. And yeah, that fight really is really loser leaves town. If Dillian White loses to Wallin, that's it, right? Oh, G-Man's gone. But yeah, if Dillian White loses to Wallin, Dillian White is done, and vice versa. If Wallin loses to White, do you really want to see Wallin again? Probably not. Probably not, I would say. But yeah, I think Wallin makes the most sense for Dillian White. I would say Otto Wallin. Failing Otto Wallin, I mean, Ajit Kabayel maybe. Could they get Ajit Kabayel over? Maybe. He's a European, or he was a European champion. Kabayel would make sense, maybe. Those are the sort of guys you'll be looking at for Dillian White, because you can't risk him too much because they want him to fight Joshua, right? So he's not going to fight a killer, but yeah, I would say Wallin makes sense personally. I would say Wallin makes sense. Not sure where G-Man's gone, by the way, guys. I'm not sure where G-Man's gone. Anthony says they'll fight early in December. Oh, he's back. He's back. He's coming back.
Yes. Sorry about that. I knew that was going to happen. StreamYard is the worst.
Yeah,
it's literally the worst app you can get.
Yeah, it's not great.
They told me about another app that is literally, it's like StreamYard, but it's meant to be way more reliable. I think they use it in TalkSport now, but I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, you need to find out, man, because I'd like to use it as well.
I need to use it. I think he even said it's free. And I think that's what TalkSport, they used to use Skype and Zoom, but he said since they got this, I can't remember what it was called, it began with an R, I think. He said since they used that, they're like, never again. They'll use anything other than this.
Yeah.
But we were talking about Dillian White's next move, and you were saying how much it made sense at this point for both White and Wallin to fight. Was loser leaves town almost.
Yeah, that's how I see it. I think that fight makes perfect sense, but to be honest, makes perfect sense. 50-50 arguably now. Dillian looked pretty poor in his last fight, and as has Wallin. So, I think both guys at this stage probably need a fight they can get up for. Mm-hmm. Wallin's been fighting journeyman, looks lethargic, looks cumbersome. Mm-hmm. Dillian to me didn't look up for the Franklin fight. I think they'll be up for this fight. I think they'll be up for it because that'll have a bit of needle in it as well. I think Wallin will come with a bit of he'll insinuate what happened previously about White ducking, that sort of thing. I think they'll be up for that. That's a good fight.
So do I. I think it's a good fight. Another good fight that we have coming up is Joe Joyce, Zhilei Zhang.
Yep.
Now that's up in the copper box, and I'm a bit pissed because I can't go over that weekend. I'd love to go to that fight because that's a really, really good fight. It's a really good fight.
It's a very good fight when it comes to staying busy, because Joe Joyce could easily sit there and either fight nobody or fight absolute cream puff.
I thought he'd recycle someone like Kubrat Pulev.
Yeah.
Someone with a bit of a name just to go, boom, see you later. Someone like that poses no risk but a bit of a name.
Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. But Zhilei Zhang's a guy who, again, Joe Joyce should beat Zhilei Zhang, but Zhilei Zhang, he brings a bit of risk because he does punch hard out of that, with that left hand out of that southpaw stance. One thing about Zhilei Zhang I've noticed is he's very crafty and sneaky. He's good at punching in between your punches. He
looks deceptive.
Yeah.
You look at Zhilei Zhang, you don't think much, and then when he's in there, he's doing things you didn't think he could do.
Yeah, he was punching with Hrgovic in that fight, and I felt he beat Hrgovic. He gave Hrgovic a lot of trouble. He brings risk early on, Zhilei Zhang, with that power, with that timing. So I like the fight. I'm not going to make it out to be like an amazing heavyweight fight, but we could have got a lot worse.
We could have got a lot worse. We could have had a fight where we just knew the outcome. With this, you got to make Joyce favourite, but there's that it factor, and I think that's why fights. Wilder Fury 3 was not a fight I particularly wanted to see, but it was as sure as hell more of a fight I wanted to see than Fury Chisora 3, because Wilder has that one-hitter quitter. He can change a fight, even if he's losing, even if he's clearly not the better fighter. He can change it. And it's not on that level, but Joyce Zhang has that power.
Yeah. It's a mismatch in terms of attributes. Joyce is bigger. He throws a lot more punches. He's got better output, better stamina. probably got more in the tank. Joyce is better in pretty much every regards, but when there's a puncher's chance, a real puncher's chance, it turns a mismatch into, well, this is a bit intriguing kind of thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I know. I'd love to see. I'd love to see Joyce versus Miller.
Yeah, that'd be fun. A lot
That
of
would
punches.
be loads of punches, both strong as hell. Who gives first?
That'd be a good fight. That would be a good fight. But no,
That,
I'm satisfied with Joyce and Zhang. I like it.
and then the following week, Tank versus Garcia, which for me is just, I'm so happy we are getting that fight. It shows, as I said at the start, it is when two fighters want it, it gets made. Simple as.
I am looking forward to it very much so.
It's an
However,
all-nighter for me.
yeah, I agree. I'm going to stay up all night for it. I just don't want something bad to happen before the fight. Somebody gets injured. Something happens. I can just see it happening. I can see it happening. But listen, that fight on paper, two punches, two quick guys, one mistake could result in disaster. It's a tremendous fight. We know Ryan's got we know Ryan's got deficiencies with his defense, his chin in the air, backs up straight lines. His chin may not be the best as per the Luke Campbell fight. But if you look at Ryan, at Tank, Tank's not really fought any massive punches.
Rolly Romero outboxing.
Well, exactly. When you're losing rounds to the likes of Rolly Romero, he lost multiple rounds to Barrios. He lost multiple rounds to Isaac Cruz. These are not A-level fighters. They're not.
Nope.
And they were tagging him up, but they'd never had that power that Ryan has. Tank does get caught. Tank does get tagged up. And Ryan can crack. So we're assuming I've seen this thing where people assume Tank's got a good chin. He may do. He's got the build, the build. He looks like he's got a good chin. He's short, he's stocky. But we've never seen him take that sort of punch. So who knows?
He's never been in there with anyone who can remotely crack. And as you say, Leo Santa Cruz is piecing him up. Tank Davis is not hard to find at all. It's just a question of, can he take the power from a real puncher? Because Santa Cruz ain't a puncher. Pitbull can hit a little bit, but nothing major. I mean, Rowley was outboxing this guy. That guy is garbage.
And that's the thing with Tank. Listen, Tank has talent. He's got athletic ability. He's explosive. He punches hard. But we said this with Wilder. Listen, people like me were criticizing Wilder for losing rounds against guys they should not be losing to. And the retort was, well, he knocks him out anyway. What does it matter? It does matter because eventually you're not going to be able to knock everyone out.
No. I think with Tank, right, we forget, right, he came on to reading people's radars when he was, 22, 23? He's 28 going on 29 now. And he's not, since he fought Pedrazo back in 2017, I think it was 2017 anyway, I have not seen him improve once since then. Now, he should have, because he had all that talent back then.
Yeah, I've not seen the improvements from Tank. Still dangerous. Don't get me wrong, but you would have expected a much better progression in his career. You was expecting these sort of fights way back when.
Do you think it was Floyd Mayweather who was playing a big part in that? Because he shut down the Lomachenko fight instantly.
Yeah, partially. I would say partially. Yeah, I think now though with PBC, I think they have to take these sort of fights now. I think they have to be more willing to make these fights. We've heard the rumors about the PBC's financial struggles. Not as many dates on Showtime and Fox, etc. You see Fulton's going to Japan to fight in UA. They seem to be more willing to make these fights now. In my opinion, due to necessity. But
look, we have this fight, the great fight this weekend as well. I forgot to mention, which is Plant versus Benavidez, PBC. I think for them, there's no more putting Benavidez in with this guy, putting Plant in with this guy. It's a case of, it's a fight we should are now tough shit.
Yep, it has to happen now. I think it's happening at a good time. People would say, well, it should have happened when they was both champions. I get that, but
yeah, true.
Both guys, Caleb Plant is in his prime. Benavidez is close to his prime, I would say. Both guys are in a really good spot. Stylistically, it's fascinating. Benavidez is the aggressive, come forward, volume puncher. Good combinations, good speed. Whereas Plant is more of a classical boxer, I guess I'd say.
Yeah,
Bull versus Matador in this fight, and I think the Bull runs over the Matador. He gores him. I think
I
he
think
takes
he
him up
does too.
late stoppage. I'll tell you this
Oh
now.
yeah,
This is my prediction. This fight's going to be reminiscent of Miguel Cotto Margarito 1, as to where you'll see Caleb Plant start really well. He'll box really well. He'll win the early rounds. He'll tag Benavidez up, look really good. But Plant's gas tank, I'm not sold. And Benavidez seems to carry his volume, punch output late in fights.
hmm
You'll start seeing him get closer to Plant as the fight goes on. Mid rounds, Plant will flag and eventually get stopped late rounds.
I
In my
think he'll
opinion.
get stopped late as well, and I think similar to Canelo, it'll just go. He'll just go late,
Yeah, yeah,
and I've never trusted Plant's gas tank. I
yeah.
mean,
The thing
he
is,
didn't fight
yeah,
low level. He didn't fight high level guys, and he's still gassing out against them.
exactly. And the thing for me about this fight, if Caleb Plant can't hurt Benavidez, I can't see him winning this fight. I can't see him boxing for 12 rounds on the back foot, keeping his feet moving without gassing. I just can't see it.
No, I don't know. I don't think he can. Benavidez has been down before. I remember that, but for the most part, he's shown decent whiskers as well.
Yeah, he went down against Gavril way back when. I think that was more
Years
like,
ago.
yeah, balance more than anything. Uh,
That's it.
yeah,
He's never really been remotely hurt.
no, he's not. No, if I'm Plant, though, I'll try and test that early. I think Plant
Oh, yeah.
needs to try and put some good shots on him early on, try and get his respect. If he doesn't do that, I think he struggles here.
Yeah, or even just try and put it on him early, hope for the best, and see what happens to show him that you're there.
Yeah, exactly. Because Benavidez's mentality going into this fight, we've heard him say it. Caleb can't punch, hits like a bitch. They are his words. We heard Wilder say that about Fury.
Yeah,
And we
and
saw
we saw
when,
how
when,
that
when
happened.
Wilder got hurt in that second fight, he never recovered. He was shocked. He was
No,
surprised. When you go in with a
he
mentality
was
that
shit.
this, yeah, if you go in with that mentality that this guy can't hurt me, and he does,
Yeah, it knocks your
that's
world.
that rocks your world. And that's what I'd be trying to do if I was Caleb Plant. I'd be trying to nail this guy early and hurt him. Maybe he's not going to knock him out, but hurt him.
Just to show him that you're there. And I can't wait for this fight. I'm probably going to stay up for it. Might not do a watch along, but I'm definitely staying up for it. I can't wait for this fight. BBC are putting on good fights for the first time in God knows how many years out of necessity. Now just imagine like if PBC weren't struggling as bad, how hard it would be to get some of these fights made.
I know,
It's
man.
taken
I know.
years. It's taken
Yeah.
flipping years. When they had a stranglehold on boxing, which they did, like it was never going to last. But 2014, 15, it's like every single fighter you could think of was with PBC. Even if they were fighting on Eddie Hearn shows, like James DeGale, they were PBC associated. Now that's gone.
Yeah, they fumbled it really. They was in a great position at one time, but I think they fumbled the bag, as they say. They had a lot of investor money, and they really pissed it up the wall.
They pissed out the wall. They did everything in their power to stop fights being made. Like, do you remember before before Spence fought Sean Porter, where they came out and PBC was Al Heyman, it wasn't Al Heyman directly, but someone said that we no longer recognise the WBO title as legit. So, as far as we're concerned, we don't have to fight anyone for that title.
Yeah, I do recall that. Yeah, in fact, if you actually remember way back when the PBC first were created, they actually wanted PBC belts like UFC.
Yeah.
That
They
was the
tried to
initial
do
plan.
a boxing UFC.
Yeah, that was the initial. I think that was the initial game plan. They wanted to monopolize boxing and basically make a UFC version of boxing, essentially.
Which was never going to work.
No, it's too fractured. Could never work.
They tried. Try as hard they did. We got some good fights out of it, though, to be fair, in the early days. We did, but they didn't last. I mean, they put Thurman versus Garcia on normal. I think it was Standard Fox, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think it was.
Imagine like that. At the time, they were like two of the best in the division, and they put that on Standard Fox. That was crazy.
Yeah, I think Thurman versus Porter was as well, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was.
Yeah, I think that was as well. That was on free TV. That was a great fight.
That was an amazing fight. Yeah.
If you've never seen Sean Porter versus Keith Thurman, go watch it. It was brilliant.
Yeah, that year they was decent. Was that 2015?
16.
2016, because they made Frampton Santa Cruz as well. They made some good fights that year, but
they made some great fights that year. That was kind of like the last good year of PBC. They went downhill after that.
they never had the consistency. Even when they was doing it well, they never had the consistency of putting like back to back to back to back to back cards, like really
Yeah.
good cards. But I think that's a problem in boxing in general, though. You know,
Yes. For every good card
yeah,
you get like 3 bad ones from
exactly,
any
yeah,
promoter.
yeah. And that's the thing. That's another thing. It's funny you say that because Dana White. I listened to something from Dana White. He was talking about Fury Usyk, and he said, "Well, that's the problem with boxing.
Yeah,
Fights like this, when they should
I've
happen,
heard
they
that.
don't happen, and when they do happen, they happen way too late." And it's funny because I saw so many fight fans on Twitter, boxing fans, they were coming at Dana White saying this, that, and the other,
He's
saying
right though.
how, but yeah, they were saying how bad Dana White's business practices are. He's this, he's that, he's the other, but they weren't attacking the argument.
No. They'll attack and say, "Oh, these UFC fighters don't get paid a lot of money," but like he's right though in what he says about boxing. Never mind how much these get paid. His assessment on boxing is spot on.
He even said that was one of the he used boxing as what not to do in regards to the UFC.
Yeah, but you can't blame him. I mean, like we're talking about a fight now which has no stumbling block should be made like that, and it's not happening in Fury Usyk.
Exactly.
From the outside looking in, one fighter is just made. Without saying he doesn't want the fight, he's doing everything in his power to make you not want the fight. It'd be like, when you go for a job interview and you don't want the job, but you just kind of have to go maybe to take a box with someone or something. So you're doing everything in your power to make yourself look crap, be
Yeah.
the dullest canvas you ever see. So what makes you want this job? Just fancy it, just anything that you could do to say, right, well, I went to that interview, didn't get the job, see you later.
Yeah, exactly. I've done that. I've been to interviews where the job looks good on paper, but I went there and it's not what I thought it was. I have done that. I've kind of sabotaged. Yeah.
When I was 18, my mum wanted me to work. I was fresh out of school. I might have only been 17 actually. Was fresh out of school. She's like, "Oh, for the summer, go and work in this place." I was like, "I don't want to work there." She was like, "Oh, well, I'll drop you up and drop a CV." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And they rang me for the interview the next day, and I was like, "I don't want this job at all." So I went in, the blankest canvas you'd ever want to give, and I was like, "Well, didn't get that job." They rang me an hour later. "Can you start tomorrow?" I was like, "Fuck." I got out of it in the end, though. I just told them, "No, I don't want your job. Sorry. See you later."
That's cool.
And I was like, fuck. Of all the things, blank as canvas, just one word answers. And I was like, they must have been desperate.
Yeah, or they're not good recruiters, one of the two. Yeah.
Bit of both.
But you're right. It's a good analogy to use with Tyson Fury. That's what it feels like. I have wondered, is he out of shape? Does he?
I don't even. It's hard to say. Like, is he ever in shape? He's never going to be the body beautiful type.
Well, that's true.
Is it injuries? Niggling injuries? More so. I've heard Babbage say that Tyson Fury has injuries that obviously we're not privy to.
Maybe, but it's just hard. It's hard to know with Tyson Fury. I mean, I can't give him the benefit of the doubt. I just can't. If like I was saying earlier, if Tyson Fury had managed his career like Usyk's managed his, no, I can give him benefit of the doubt then.
Yeah.
But I just can't.
If it had been a situation where we know Tyson Fury could make these fights drop of a hat, and he's done that in the past, we'd be looking at this a lot different. We'd be saying, "Oh, who is it really? Who is at fault? Is it the net or is it?" But because Fury has a history of even making demands, like he did with the WBC when they wanted to fight Dylan White, put the Iron Belt on the line. Okay, we will. No, it doesn't work for me still.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there you go. Case in point. Mate, I wanted to do the hour. I think we got a good bit in this hour. We covered the Fury Usyk situation. I'm sure the dislike button's getting smashed by the Fury fanboys. Yep, there's 2 dislikes, so there you go. That's all the Fury fanboys that are left. As for the other 132 that are in the chat, if you haven't already, smash the like button. Del, mate, closing thoughts on the whole situation. What are your thoughts on everything?
Well, that is boxing, right? I mean, it builds us up, it gets us excited, but ultimately it disappoints. The analogy I would use, and I'm sure the lads in the chat have all been here, there's that girl you shouldn't mess with. You shouldn't mess with her, but there's something about her that just keeps drawing you in. She's great in between the sheets, but there's just something about her. But she's toxic. She's poison. She's a psycho. At any given moment, any given night, she could come in the bedroom with a fucking carving knife. But you still fuck with her. That's boxing. It lets us down.
That's literally it.
It treats us like shit, but we always keep coming back. That's boxing.
It must. God knows what kind of stranglehold it has on us, but it has that. Mate, always a pleasure. Channel, Blue Collar Sport TV. I have it pinned in the chat. So, trying to get Dell up to 7K. We're trying to get, 7K plus the rest with Disturbed. We obviously know about that. The gore king of YouTube. The gore king. But we love Dell's videos. We love listening to him have a rant. When Dell gets ranting, I listen. When I see ranting the title, I'm like, I'm listening every time.
Yeah, I need to do more. But there you go.
But mate, I appreciate you coming on. Thanks again. We'll have a quick chat after this. But thanks again for coming on. Lads, smash the like button. And better yet, actually, don't just smash the like button. Go and hit subscribe on Dell's channel, Blue Collar Sports TV. For now, lads and lassies, we'll talk to you. Peace.
Peace.
Cheers, mate. That was good fun.